At the Grand Continental Hotel, where luxury meets prestige, a quiet revolution unfolded, not in the boardroom, but in the corridors, where a cleaner's fluency in 9 languages shattered barriers and redefined destiny. The Grand Continental Hotel stood as a monument to luxury in the heart of the city, its marble floors gleaming under crystal chandeliers. Amara Johnson, a 35-year-old black woman who had worked as part of the cleaning staff for nearly 5 years, moved efficiently through the pristine corridors with her housekeeping cart. Despite wearing the standard gray and white uniform, Amara carried herself with a quiet dignity that few guests ever noticed as they hurried past. Before we go any further, comment where in the world you are watching from and make sure to subscribe, because tomorrow's story is one you don't want to miss. It was Tuesday morning, busier than usual with an international business conference taking place in the hotel's grand ballroom. Amara focused on her work, methodically cleaning and tidying the East Wing while humming softly to herself. She had learned long ago to become nearly invisible to the guests, a skill that served her well as she overheard conversations and observed the comings and goings of the hotel's elite clientele. Marcus Reynolds, the 60-year-old distinguished owner of the Grand Continental, was escorting 2 Chinese businessmen down the corridor. Tall with silver hair and an impeccable charcoal suit, Reynolds presented the very image of success. The businessmen beside him looked frustrated as they struggled to communicate complex technical details in their limited English. "We appreciate opportunity, Mr. Reynolds," said the first businessman with a heavy accent, "but very difficult explaining technical specifications without proper terminology. If only someone spoke Mandarin here." The second businessman nodded emphatically. "Yes, many nuances lost, very important details for contract." Reynolds smiled diplomatically, but Amara could see the concern in his eyes. The deal was clearly important to the hotel, and the language barrier threatened to derail it. Amara hesitated for only a moment before setting down her feather duster. With perfect pronunciation and fluid tones, she addressed the businessmen in flawless Mandarin. "Excuse me, gentlemen. Perhaps I could be of assistance? I understand you're having difficulty explaining technical specifications." The businessmen's expressions transformed from frustration to astonishment. They immediately responded in rapid Mandarin, explaining their predicament with obvious relief. Amara nodded, listening carefully as they detailed their concerns about the contract specifications. Marcus Reynolds stood frozen, his mouth slightly agape as he watched his hotel cleaner converse effortlessly in a language he couldn't begin to understand. The businessmen were smiling now, gesturing enthusiastically as Amara responded with appropriate technical terminology and cultural nuances that had been entirely lost in translation. After a brief but productive exchange, Amara turned to her employer. "Mr. Reynolds, they're concerned about the technical specifications for the conference equipment. The translation service misinterpreted several critical terms. They need assurance that the hotel can accommodate their specific requirements for the presentation tomorrow." Reynolds stared at her, momentarily speechless. "You speak Mandarin?" he finally managed. "Yes, sir," Amara replied simply, resuming her dusting as if nothing extraordinary had occurred. Later that morning, Reynolds found himself standing in the lobby as a group of French tourists approached the reception desk. The flustered receptionist was struggling to understand their rapid questions about local attractions. Without hesitation, Reynolds scanned the lobby and spotted Amara emptying a trash bin. "Ms. Johnson," he called out, "could you assist us for a moment?" Amara set aside her work and approached the desk. With a warm smile, she greeted the tourists in perfect French, her accent so authentic they initially mistook her for a native speaker. The relief on their faces was immediate as Amara efficiently answered their questions about local museums, restaurants, and transportation. As she finished helping the tourists, a Russian diplomat approached with a complex question about his room arrangement. Without missing a beat, Amara switched to Russian, her grammar and vocabulary impeccable. The diplomat's eyebrows raised in surprise and appreciation. Reynolds watched in amazement as over the next hour, Amara seamlessly assisted guests in Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, German, and Swahili. Each time, her fluency and cultural understanding were apparent, leaving guests impressed and grateful. That afternoon, Marcus Reynolds sat behind his imposing mahogany desk, staring at the door to his office. He had instructed his assistant to send for Amara immediately, and now he found himself unexpectedly nervous about the upcoming conversation. A soft knock preceded Amara's entrance. She stepped in cautiously, her hands folded in front of her uniform. "You wanted to see me, Mr. Reynolds?" "Please sit down, Ms. Johnson." Reynolds gestured to the leather chair across from his desk. "I must say, you've given me quite a surprise today." Amara sat down carefully, her posture straight but tense. "I hope I haven't overstepped, sir." "Overstepped? Quite the contrary. You've revealed an extraordinary talent that I've been completely unaware of for... How long have you worked here?" "Almost 5 years, sir." Reynolds leaned forward, genuinely curious. "And in that time, no one discovered that you speak... How many languages is it exactly?" "9 fluently, sir. English, Mandarin, French, Spanish, Portuguese, Arabic, German, Russian, and Swahili. I can manage basic conversation in 5 others." Reynolds sat back, astonished. 14 languages? That's remarkable. May I ask how you acquired such skills?" Amara's eyes softened as she began to explain. "I grew up in various countries, sir. My father was a diplomat before he passed away when I was 15. We lived in China, Russia, Morocco, Germany, and Kenya during my childhood. Languages came naturally to me. I was always the family translator because I picked them up faster than my parents." She paused, her fingers intertwining in her lap. "After my father died, we returned to the United States. I had planned to study international relations at university. I was accepted to Georgetown with a partial scholarship." "What happened?" Reynolds asked, gently, sensing the shift in her tone. "Life happened, Mr. Reynolds. My mother became ill, cancer. The medical bills consumed our savings. I deferred my admission to care for her, working whatever jobs I could find. After she passed, I tried to return to my education, but by then I was supporting my younger brother through his medical school studies. He graduates next month," she added, with unmistakable pride. "So your remarkable linguistic abilities have been hidden behind a housekeeping card all this time?" Reynolds mused. Amara straightened her shoulders. "There's dignity in all honest work, Mr. Reynolds. I've never been ashamed of being a cleaner." Reynolds nodded thoughtfully. "Of course, I meant no disrespect. But your talents are extraordinary, Ms. Johnson. Talents that could be utilized in ways that benefit both the hotel and yourself far more effectively." Reynolds stood up and walked to the window overlooking the city skyline. "The Grand Continental hosts over 50 international conferences annually. We employ translation services that cost hundreds of thousands of dollars per year, and still, as you saw today, misunderstandings occur." He turned back to face Amara. "I'd like to offer you a new position, Ms. Johnson, Director of International Guest Relations. You would be responsible for assisting our most important international clients, ensuring cultural sensitivities are respected, and helping to prevent the exact type of miscommunication you resolved this morning." Amara's eyes widened. "That's unexpected, sir. The salary would begin at 3 times your current pay," Reynolds continued, "with benefits including educational assistance, should you wish to complete your degree." Amara remained silent, processing the sudden change in her circumstances. "Understand this is surprising," Reynolds acknowledged. "Take the weekend to consider it. But know that I value talent and intelligence, Ms. Johnson. I would be remiss as a businessman to allow such exceptional abilities to remain underutilized." 3 months later, The Grand Continental Hotel's Imperial Ballroom had been transformed into an elegant showcase of international cooperation. Crystal chandeliers cast a warm glow over the gathered dignitaries, representing 12 different countries. At the center of it all stood Amara Johnson, almost unrecognizable from the woman who had pushed a cleaning cart through these same halls just a short time ago. Dressed in an impeccably tailored navy suit that subtly complemented her deep brown skin, her hair was styled in a sophisticated updo that framed her face with quiet elegance. A small, tasteful pin bearing the hotel's logo adorned her lapel, the only visible sign of her affiliation, though every person of importance in the A room now knew her name. The transformation had been swift but thorough. After accepting Reynolds' offer, Amara had spent 2 intensive weeks in executive training, meeting with department heads and learning the hotel's operational protocols. Her office, formerly a rarely used meeting room on the executive floor, had been hastily refurbished with a mahogany desk, comfortable client seating, and walls adorned with maps of the world and artistic representations of global landmarks. The nameplate on her door read, Amara Johnson, Director of International Guest Relations, though her influence had already expanded well beyond that initial title. Amara navigated through the crowd with practiced ease, exchanging greetings in various languages. A few words of welcoming Japanese here, a warm Arabic greeting there, each interaction perfectly calibrated to make the recipient feel valued and understood. She had meticulously researched each delegation attending tonight's International Trade Conference, preparing cultural briefings for the hotel staff that covered everything from appropriate greetings to dining customs to negotiation styles. The results were evident in the relaxed, productive atmosphere that permeated the room. The Saudi delegation stood conversing comfortably with Brazilian investors, while Ukrainian tech entrepreneurs discussed potential collaborations with South Korean manufacturing representatives. Traditional barriers of language and cultural misunderstanding had been systematically dismantled through Amara's comprehensive preparation. Hotel staff moved through the crowd with confidence, each having been personally briefed by Amara on the specific protocols relevant to the guests they would be serving. From across the room, Amara spotted Marcus Reynolds entering with the Japanese delegation, the group whose participation had been most in doubt. The 5 Japanese businessmen were smiling, their body language relaxed and open, a stark contrast to the formal rigidity they had displayed during preliminary meetings. Reynolds caught her eye and gave an almost imperceptible nod of triumph. The deal had been secured. Amara allowed herself a moment of quiet satisfaction as she observed the scene. Just 3 months ago, she had been invisible to these same business elites, nothing more than a silent figure pushing a cleaning cart. Now she was an integral part of the hotel's executive team, her insights and abilities recognized and valued. The journey had been dizzying in its speed, yet Amara had approached each new responsibility with the same meticulous attention to detail that had characterized her work as a cleaner. Ms. Johnson, Reynolds approached, the Japanese businessman, following respectfully behind him. These gentlemen would like to personally express their appreciation for your cultural guidance throughout these negotiations. Amara bowed with perfect Japanese etiquette, not too deep, acknowledging their status while maintaining her own professional standing. Watashi tachi no hoteru de omotenashi de kitekwe desu, she said, expressing the honor of hosting them at the hotel. The eldest of the Japanese delegates, Mr. Tanaka, responded with evident respect. Ms. Johnson, your understanding of our customs has made these negotiations possible. The subtle adjustments you suggested to the contract language preserved the essential business terms while respecting our cultural need for harmony and consensus building. Small details often determine success or failure in international business, Amara replied modestly. I merely helped translate not just the words, but the intentions behind them. After the Japanese delegation moved on to speak with other attendees, Reynolds turned to Amara with undisguised satisfaction. The Japanese delegation has agreed to terms. They specifically mentioned your cultural insights as the deciding factor. 3 years we've been courting their business, and you managed to secure it in 3 months. Amara smiled, recognizing the genuine appreciation in his voice. Their concerns were valid. The traditional contract approach would have seemed too aggressive by their standards. The concept of face is paramount in Japanese business culture. Our original proposal, while financially sound, would have forced them to accept terms that might have appeared as capitulation to their superiors back in Tokyo, which is exactly why you're invaluable here, Reynolds replied, his earlier formality softening into genuine collegial respect. The board is impressed, to put it mildly. You've already generated more international business in 1 quarter than we saw in the entire previous fiscal year. He paused, studying her with thoughtful consideration. Have you given any more thought to the international expansion project? Singapore and Dubai are particularly interested in our proposals. The international expansion had been Reynolds's long-held dream, establishing the Grand Continental brand in key global financial centers. Previous attempts had faltered due to cultural miscalculations and communication barriers. When Reynolds had tentatively broached the subject with Amara 2 weeks earlier, she had recognized it as both an enormous challenge and an unprecedented opportunity. I have, sir, she replied, reaching into her portfolio case. I've prepared a detailed proposal addressing the cultural considerations for each potential location. She handed him a professional leather portfolio, its weight substantial with the comprehensive research it contained. I've included linguistic demographics, recommendations for staff training programs, and adaptations to our service model that would respect local customs while maintaining the Grand Continental standard. Reynolds accepted the portfolio with evident satisfaction, weighing it appreciatively in his hands. Excellent. The board meets next Thursday. I'd like you to present this personally. Amara nodded, mentally adding the presentation to her already full schedule. The past 3 months had been a whirlwind of 18-hour days and intensive learning. She had absorbed the hotel's operational protocols, financial models, and strategic plans with the same facility she had once applied to new languages. The executive team had initially regarded her with skepticism, another of Reynolds's impulsive decisions, they assumed. But her intelligence, work ethic, and unique insights had quickly silenced the doubters. By the way, Reynolds continued, the Educational Assistance Program is ready whenever you decide to resume your studies. Georgetown has indicated they would welcome your application, though frankly I think you could teach half their courses at this point. The educational program had been an unexpected addition to her compensation package, a gesture that acknowledged the academic path she had been forced to abandon. While her current salary already exceeded what she might have earned with the degree she once sought, the opportunity to complete what had been started held deep personal significance. Amara laughed softly, the sound warm with genuine appreciation. One step at a time, Mr. Reynolds. My brother's graduation is next week. I wouldn't have been able to attend if I were still on the cleaning staff. For that opportunity alone, I'm grateful. Dr. Marcus Johnson, her brother, would soon bear that title officially. The thought filled her with quiet pride. The years of sacrifice, putting her own dreams on hold while working multiple jobs to support his medical education, were finally bearing fruit. With her new position, she had been able to buy him a proper graduation gift, the high-quality medical diagnostic equipment he would need for his residency. More importantly, she would be sitting in the audience at his graduation ceremony, rather than rushing there after an exhausting shift of cleaning hotel rooms. The gratitude is mutual, Ms. Johnson, Reynolds replied with uncharacteristic warmth. You've transformed our international relations department. The board has unanimously approved the creation of a cultural diplomacy division with you as its head. The formal announcement will be made next month, along with a significant budget allocation. The news momentarily stunned Amara. A division head reporting directly to the executive committee with her own staff and budget. It represented another quantum leap forward in a journey that already seemed surreal. That's very generous, Mr. Reynolds. It's not generosity, it's sound business, he corrected her gently. Your insights have already saved us millions in potential miscommunications and lost opportunities. The board recognizes value when they see it. He glanced across the room where new guests were arriving. If you'll excuse me, the Korean delegation has just arrived. As Reynolds walked away to greet the new arrivals, Amara took a moment to observe the room from a slight remove. The massive crystal chandelier that dominated the ballroom ceiling caught her attention. Just months ago, she had been dusting each individual crystal pendant with careful precision, balanced precariously on a stepladder before dawn. Now, she stood beneath it as an honored executive, reshaping the hotel's approach to international business. A distinguished Spanish businessman approached her, his expression reflecting respectful professional interest rather than the dismissive glance he might have given her former self. Señora Johnson, ¿podría usted clarificar algunos términos específicos en la sección financiera del contrato? He inquired, asking her to clarify specific terms in the contract's financial section. Amara responded in perfect Castilian Spanish, explaining the nuances with confident expertise. As they conversed about international banking regulations and currency exchange provisions, she caught a glimpse of her reflection in one of the ballroom's ornate mirrors. The woman who looked back at her stood tall, confident, her eyes bright with purpose and recognition. Her thoughts drifted momentarily to her parents. Her mother would have been proud of this moment. Not just the title or the salary, but the fullness with which Amara was now using her gifts. Her father's diplomatic legacy lived on through her work, building bridges between cultures just as he had once done. The languages he had encouraged her to learn as they moved from country to country had finally become the keys that unlocked her future. As the Spanish businessman thanked her and moved on, Amara noticed a cleaning staff member discreetly emptying a waste paper basket near the ballroom entrance. The young woman, Hispanic, probably in her early 20s, worked efficiently, making herself nearly invisible to the wealthy guests. Amara watched her for a moment, recognizing the careful movements, the strategic timing, the practiced invisibility. She had performed those same motions thousands of times herself. With sudden decision, Amara crossed the room toward the young woman. "Excuse me," she said quietly. The cleaner looked up, momentary alarm crossing her features. Hotel staff were typically reprimanded for being noticed during elite gatherings. "Yes, ma'am," she responded cautiously. "What's your name?" Amara asked. "Elena Mendez, ma'am." "Elena, how many languages do you speak?" The young woman blinked in surprise at the unexpected question. "3, ma'am. Spanish, English, and some Portuguese. My grandmother was from Brazil." Amara smiled, reaching into her pocket for a business card, still new enough that handing them out gave her a small thrill. "Come see me tomorrow morning at 9. My office is on the executive floor, room 422. Elena accepted the card with confused hesitation. Is there a problem with my work?" "Not at all," Amara assured her. "But I believe in looking for hidden talents. This hotel employs many remarkable people, and I'd like to know more about yours." As Elena nodded and returned to her work, Amara turned back toward the gala, where somewhere in the hotel, another cleaner was dusting diligently, perhaps harboring talents yet to be discovered. The cycle would continue. Opportunities recognized and seized, potential unveiled. Amara straightened her shoulders and moved back into the crowd of international dignitaries, ready to build more bridges between worlds she uniquely understood.